Hi there, my dear students. Today, I have something really special for you. We're going to dive into one of the most beloved stories of all time, The Little Prince, by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. This isn't just any story, it's a beautiful tale full of important lessons about life, love, and friendship. As we go through this wonderful story together, not only will you be practicing your English, but you'll also be learning about culture and the deeper meanings behind the words. The Little Prince has touched the hearts of millions of people around the world, and I'm sure it will touch yours too. So, get comfortable, and let's begin this magical journey. I'm so excited to share it with you. The story begins with a pilot, who is also the narrator of the book, who crashes his plane in the middle of the Sahara Desert. He's completely alone, miles away from civilization, trying to figure out how to fix his plane. But then, something unexpected happens. On the first morning after the crash, the pilot is awakened by a small voice saying, "Please, draw me a sheep." Surprised, the pilot opens his eyes and finds a little boy standing in front of him. This boy is the Little Prince. He is a curious and gentle figure, with golden hair and a mysterious aura. The pilot is intrigued. Where did this boy come from? What is he doing alone in the desert? The Little Prince doesn't answer those questions right away. Instead, he repeats his request, "Please, draw me a sheep." The pilot, who was never very good at drawing, does his best to satisfy the boy. After a few attempts, he finally draws a box with holes in it and says, "The sheep you want is inside this box." Surprisingly, the Little Prince is delighted with this drawing, and that's where their friendship begins. This moment marks the beginning of a unique and touching friendship between the pilot and the Little Prince. Throughout the story, the Little Prince shares his experiences and adventures, allowing the pilot, and us, to discover more about his world and the valuable lessons he has learned. As the Little Prince and the pilot spend more time together in the desert, the Little Prince begins to share stories about his life. He tells the pilot about his home, a small planet known as asteroid B612. It's a tiny world, much smaller than Earth, where the Little Prince spends his days taking care of his planet. One of the most important tasks the Little Prince has is cleaning out the 3 volcanoes on his planet. 2 of them are active, and 1 is extinct, but he cleans them all, just to be safe. He also has to be careful about the baobab trees. If they're not pulled out when they're very small, they can grow huge and take over the entire planet. The Little Prince explains how he must be vigilant every day to keep his tiny planet in order. But the most special thing on his planet isn't the volcanoes or the baobabs, it's a flower. The Little Prince's flower is unlike any other. She is beautiful, with delicate petals, and she requires a lot of attention. The flower is very proud and a little vain, always asking the Little Prince to take care of her and protect her from the wind and the cold. She is demanding, but the Little Prince loves her dearly. However, the Little Prince is also confused by his feelings for the flower. She can be difficult, and sometimes her vanity and demands make him feel sad. He doesn't understand why she behaves this way, and it troubles him deeply. Despite this, he knows that he has a special bond with her, and he takes care of her with great devotion. As he tells these stories, the pilot begins to understand that the Little Prince's journey isn't just about exploring other planets. It's also about understanding his own feelings and relationships. The flower symbolizes something precious but also complicated, something that the little prince cares for deeply but doesn't fully understand. After sharing stories about his home, the little prince tells the pilot about the time he decided to leave his tiny planet and explore the universe. He was curious to see what else was out there and to meet new people. So, one day, he packed up his things, said goodbye to his flower, and set off on his journey. The little prince traveled to several different planets, each one inhabited by a different type of person, and each encounter taught him something valuable. The first planet he visited was ruled by a king. This king believed he had control over everything and everyone, even the stars in the sky. He was kind to the little prince, but the prince quickly realized that the king was very lonely and that his desire to rule over everything made him isolated. The little prince learned that power without compassion can lead to loneliness. Next, the little prince visited the planet of a vain man. This man was obsessed with being admired by everyone. He asked the little prince to clap his hands so he could tip his hat in acknowledgement. However, the little prince found this behavior strange and soon understood that the vain man was also very lonely. His need for admiration prevented him from forming real connections with others. From this, the little prince learned that seeking validation from others isn't the same as being truly loved. The third planet was home to a drunkard. The drunkard spent his days drinking to forget that he was ashamed of drinking. This confused the little prince, who couldn't understand why someone would do something that made them feel worse about themselves. He quickly left this planet, feeling sad for the drunkard. The lesson here was about the dangers of escaping from problems instead of facing them. The little prince then visited a businessman who was so busy counting stars that he didn't have time for anything else. He claimed to own all the stars and that he was very rich because of it. But the little prince thought this was silly. How could someone own the stars? The businessman was too focused on his wealth to enjoy life or appreciate the beauty of the stars. The little prince realized that there are more important things in life than money and possessions. Each of these encounters taught the little prince something new about human nature. He began to understand the complexity of adults and the different ways they can become lost in their own worlds. These lessons stayed with him as he continued his journey, shaping his understanding of what truly matters in life. As the little prince continued his journey, he met more people who offered him new perspectives on life. Each encounter brought a new lesson that helped him better understand the complexities of the adult world. On one of the planets, the little prince met a lamplighter. This man's job was simple: he would light and extinguish a lamp each day. However, the planet turned so quickly that the lamplighter had to light and extinguish the lamp every minute. He was exhausted but kept doing his job without questioning it. The little prince found this both curious and sad. He learned that sometimes people get stuck in meaningless routines, following orders without thinking about the purpose behind them. Next, the little prince arrived on a planet where a geographer lived. The geographer was a very serious man who recorded mountains, rivers, and oceans in large books, but he never went out to explore his own planet. He relied on explorers to bring him information, but he himself never saw the wonders of the world. The little prince was surprised to learn that the geographer knew so much yet at the same time so little about the world around him. This taught the little prince that knowledge without direct experience can be incomplete and limited. In his travels, the little prince began to realize that many of the adults he encountered were trapped in their own occupations and priorities, often without reflecting on the meaning behind their actions. They worried about superficial things like power, wealth, or validation from others, but they forgot to focus on what really matters, like friendship, love, and true purpose in life. These lessons began to weigh heavily on the little prince's heart. He realized that although he had learned a lot, there was still something missing, something he couldn't quite identify. His longing for his flower, which he had left on his tiny planet, grew stronger each day, and he began to understand the depth of his feelings for her. As he continued his journey, the little prince finally arrived on Earth, the largest and most diverse planet he had visited. He encountered many new things and met various creatures, but the meeting that left the biggest impact on him was with a fox. The fox, unlike the other characters the little prince had met, was not trapped in routines or obsessions. She was wise and calm, and through their conversations, she taught the little prince one of the most important lessons of his life, the true meaning of friendship. The fox asked the little prince to tame her, explaining that by doing so, they would create a unique bond, making them special to one another. "You become responsible, forever, for what you have tamed," said the fox. This idea deeply touched the little prince's heart. He realized that his relationship with the flower, though complicated, was based on this kind of special bond. By taming his flower, he had become responsible for her, and it was this responsibility, this love, that gave his life meaning. With his heart full of new understandings, the little prince began to reflect on everything he had learned during his travels. He saw how adults often get lost in things that are not important and how children, with their simplicity, can see what truly matters. He also understood that love and friendship are the most precious things, the ones that really give life meaning. Finally, the little prince decided that it was time to return to his planet, to his flower. He knew that despite the difficulties, his place was beside her, caring for and protecting her, because she was unique in the universe, just as he was to her. The pilot, hearing these reflections, realized that the little prince's story was not just about travels and encounters, but about the simplest and most fundamental things in life: love, friendship, and the search for meaning. And so, the little prince disappeared into the desert, leaving the pilot with a sense of peace and a new perspective on what truly matters in life. And so, the story of the little prince comes to an end. I hope this beautiful journey has touched you as much as it has touched me. It was a pleasure to share this story full of valuable lessons about love, friendship, and the importance of caring for the things that truly matter in life. Thank you so much for following along with this narration. I hope that, in addition to practicing your English, you've also taken something special from this story into your own lives. Until next time, and keep learning and exploring the wonderful world of books. See you soon.